wears her teeth. Like, I'm loving it so much. I don't even want to pick up Cuckoo. Like, what could that mean? I'm gonna be very normal about this. Tricky treat, not quite wrong holiday. Okay, so like slow burn girlies rise up. You will love this one. Whew. Hey y'all, welcome to a new 24-hour readathon. Happy Friday the 13th. I am filming this in advance so that this gets put up on Friday the 13th. There is a creator on here that I love. Her name is Katie is Reading, and I don't know if she does this every time, but I did watch one 24-hour readathon from her that dropped on Friday the 13th, and she had mentioned that she had done a 24-hour readathon on Friday the 13th before, and I was like, that's such a good idea. I love that. I'm totally gonna steal that idea. So shout out to Katie is Reading. Check out her content. She's my favorite, honestly. I love her stuff so much. So happy Friday the 13th. We're gonna do a 24-hour readathon. I am going to change up how I normally do this. Usually I try to read for a full 24 hours, like from midnight to midnight, from 10 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm not always successful. I do always end up sleeping for an hour or two. Like, I never actually completely stay up for 24 hours. It's not good for you. It's definitely not healthy. I think for this one, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I am gonna read for 24 hours. However, I'm going to space it over the course of 2 days. So today I'm going to read for 12 hours and tomorrow I'm going to read for 12 hours. This also works because tomorrow I am seeing Interstellar in IMAX, and so that's going to take up like 4 hours out of the day. There would be no way I could get some reading in during that time if I were to try to stay there for the full 24 hours. So we're going to do 12 hours today, 12 hours tomorrow. Let's talk about books. I am currently almost done with House of Hollow. This book is, first of all, just the cover is so great. This is the most 5 stars I've ever read. I have been on a kick of 5-star reads lately. Like, I have just picked up the best books for me that I have been giving 5 stars consistently. This is definitely going to be one of them. I would be so surprised if something happens in the end that makes me not want to give it 5 stars anymore, because right now it's a 5-star shape up, okay? I have an hour 22 minutes left in it according to the Kindle. I'm 70% of the way done, so I want to knock that book out first, get it done. One book down within the first hour and a half. I think that'd be really nice. I'm also in the mood for a physical read. I have 3 physical books that are on my TBR for this month that I could choose from. Cuckoo would definitely be like the easiest to read out of these because the other 2 are older and classics. This one's really short though, so maybe I'll save this for the end. If I have like 2 hours to go, I could probably knock this little book out in 2 hours. This is gonna be a classic though. I don't know how difficult that'll be for me to read. Not difficult, I guess I could say, but how well my attention span will be for it. For now, I'm gonna start this 24-hour readathon with 12 hours. We're gonna finish House of Hollow. Oh, one more thing real quick. Since I am breaking this up, if I, for any reason, stop reading, I'm gonna pause it. I'm not going to let the time go down 12 hours when I'm not reading. I want this to be like actually 24 hours full of reading. That's mostly for tomorrow, for when I'm in the theater watching Interstellar. I won't have the time going down during that time. I'll have it paused, and then when I come home, I'll read for the final hours that I have. So yeah, it's about 10 a.m. It's right after 10 a.m. I'm gonna start this 12-hour clock and we're gonna finish House of Hollow. I will ever be the person who doesn't cry when they finish a book. Like, does anybody else do that? Like, even if it wasn't particularly a really sad book, just like you really love the characters so much and then it's over. Like, I will always be a crier first and foremost, so I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. Okay, I finished House of Hollow. Okay, this book, it's so good. It's about 3 sisters, and when they were little, they were like 7, 8, and 9, something like that, they went missing. They went missing for 2 months, I think was the time frame, and then they just mysteriously came back, and they came back like a little different, okay? For one thing, like, it's not a big deal, but just like a little minuscule difference. For instance, the main character Iris, the one whose head we're in, she had lost 2 baby teeth, like her 2 front teeth basically, and when she came back, her teeth were there, like she still had baby teeth, and her dad's like, where's her teeth? Like, something's different. That's also a very weird thing to happen over 2 months time. When the girls came back, they wouldn't tell anyone anything. Like, they didn't have any memory of it, honestly, like where they were, why they were missing, and who they were with and everything. The mother kind of was just like, I don't care what happened to them, I'm just glad my babies are back, right? But the father like had a really hard time with it. Like, he felt like something was different, something was off with them, he didn't trust it. There we go. So now the girls are adults. The sisters, there's Gray is the oldest, Vivi is the second oldest, and Iris is the youngest. And Gray left when she was like 17 years old. She left the house after a really bad fight with the mother. And then Vivi left shortly after that. And they've like lived their own lives. They're adults now and they're like successful. They love their life. Gray is like an international model, supermodel, superstar. Vivi's really badass. She plays bass guitar. She has a shaved head. She's super punk rock. And Iris has like stayed home with the mother, like taking care of mom. She's really a mama's girl. Like, her mom tracks her location everywhere. She like lets her mom be obsessed with her because like at one point she was missing from her mother's life. So she's kind of like, oh, it's like the least I can do, kind of. But also she just loves her mother, right? So one day all 3 of the girls are supposed to get together. I believe Vivi had like a concert she was performing, and they were all supposed to go to the concert. Well, Gray, the oldest sister, never shows up, and she's basically missing again. Okay, so now Vivi and Iris have to go on this whole adventure of trying to find out where is Gray, our older sister. Unravels from there because we have to find out the secret and like the mystery of like what actually happened to them when they were younger. What is going on with Gray? Where is Gray? Listen, the reason why this book is so good is the writing. This author is beautiful at writing. I literally, like, I could see everything, I could smell everything, I could taste everything that was being described to me. It was like the most gorgeous, like, examples, descriptions. I mean, the ending is really great. It's like it got so disgusting, like reading some of the descriptions that we were at when we finally get to the place that we're going to save Gray and everything. I mean, I was like eating my potato soup and I had to like disassociate from the words that I was reading a little bit, like not actually think about how disgusting some of the things were that were being described to me, because it was, truthfully, this book is 5 stars. Like, the writing is so gorgeous. I love the concept of the 3 sisters. I have 2 sisters myself, so it hits home a little bit. I didn't see myself or any of my sisters in any of the girls, so it wasn't like, oh, I really related to it in that aspect, but just like the bond that you can have with sisters is just like amazing. And it was just, the writing was beautiful, you guys. It was so beautiful. She did such an amazing job describing everything to us, and I'll happily read anything else she writes, okay? Yeah, that was House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I got just under 11 hours, so we're at just under 11 hours. It took me an hour to read that, which is great. It was such a fast read too. I think it was only like 290 pages and I just like blew through it. Like, it was an immaculate read. Okay, so I'm really stuck between reading Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, also The Jasad Heir from Sarah Hashem. So Two Twisted Crowns, it's the sequel to One Dark Window. I can never remember the name of that, and I really want to read the sequel so that I don't lose what happened in the first book, because you guys, I have done a terrible thing this year. I've started so many series. The Jasad Heir is another book 1, so part of me is like, girl, get it freaking together. Let's at least make some progress in one of these series. But the Jasad Heir, let me read this to you. It sounds so good. It says, in this Egyptian-inspired debut fantasy, a fugitive queen strikes a deadly bargain with her greatest enemy and finds herself embroiled in a complex game. It sounds so good. And I didn't love One Dark Window, so I'm not like expecting to love Two Twisted Crowns. Let's look at page number. Let me have that decided. I don't know why. Like, am I looking for the longest book or the shortest book? I have no idea. Okay, the Jasad Heir is 523 pages. Holy cow. Okay. And then Two Twisted Crowns, 437 pages. So they're, you know, 100 pages apart. Listen, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not happy about it, but I'm gonna read Two Twisted Crowns because I put myself into this situation and I don't need another series to catch up on next year when I eventually do my series I need to catch up on video. So I'm gonna read Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. There we go. Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. Oh, that cover's actually really pretty. I didn't realize that that was like her. Like, it's like a girl. Okay, cute. All right, see you later. Okay, I was reading in bed because I love to read in bed. It's so cozy, okay? And I was doing really good. And then I started to feel myself fall asleep. I think I actually did fall asleep for like a minute. And then my cat woke me up. So thanks, Pancake. Love you, girl. So here's just like a little update. I have my heater on, by the way, if you can hear that. So I'm 24% of the way through. I'm on page 108 and I have 9 hours and 30 minutes to go. I'm really liking it. Okay, I also really love that the author did a great job of reminding us of everything that happened in the last book, and not in a super like plain way. Like, she's been really good at weaving all that information in throughout the like first few chapters or whatever. And I was even scared, like, oh, what if there's something I don't quite remember that happened at the end of the last book? So I went online. There's no Wikipedia for this book, which is annoying. So I went online and read a Reddit summary of the first book, and literally like the author had covered everything already in the little bits and pieces that we were getting throughout the chapters. So thanks a lot, Rachel. Yeah, so I'm gonna sit up now. I'm gonna sit here at this desk and read and stay warm with my heater and my cozy socks. Okay, something really cool. I have a buttermilk here, by the way. So something really cool in the book is we are getting a history of how the Nightmare made the cards. And that's so cool. I didn't expect that. Like, I didn't think we'd get anything like that. Or not the Nightmare, the Shepherd King. You know who I'm talking about. This book is honestly surprising me in so many ways. It's so much better than I thought it would be. I know I haven't given like a summary of like what's going on or anything. I'll do that in the next clip. But we are getting like a history of how the Shepherd King created the cards, the magical system. And I didn't think we'd get that, and it's so cool. And there's like so many more characters, I feel like, in this book. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. I'm tired. No, okay, I finished Two Twisted Crowns. It was really good. I liked it a lot more than the first book. It's a continuation of where the story leaves off with the first book, where they're trying to find the cards. The cards are the magic system. If they get all 12 cards, they can heal people who've been sick from being sick from the cards. Like, if you use a card for too long, you can become sick from it. And so if you have all 12 cards, apparently you can break that spell. You know, our main characters in the first one were Elspeth and Raven, and Elspeth has the monster inside her. He's the Nightmare, he's the Shepherd King. It's like a whole thing. The Shepherd King is the one who created the cards. And then in this one, the roles kind of reverse in a way for Elspeth and Nightmare, the Shepherd King. And then it's a lot more focused on the relationship of Ione and, what was his name, Elm. And I really liked their relationship a lot. I think the reason I didn't like the first one so much was because I didn't like Raven. I did not like the MMC in the first one at all, because it's so interesting. I kept thinking something was going to happen with this. So there's a card that lets you like enter the mind of someone else. Like, you can be in their mind and like look through their mind, but also talk to them through their mind. I don't remember the name of the card, but the main male character in the first one does that a lot to Elspeth. And the Nightmare, that lives inside her, hates it, because he would do it before they got together and even after they got together, like kind of without her consent in a way. Like, he kept the way that the darkness would like talk about it, he'd be like, you're not allowed in here, she did not say that you could come in here, how dare you do that to her against her will, and all this stuff. Like, who is she to you, like, who do you think you are, and all this stuff. And then they would get together and then he would keep doing it. If I'm thinking correctly, she even at one point asked him, once they started getting together, like, don't do this to me, like unknowingly, like, don't do this anymore and everything. And then I could just be making that up, but I feel like she even said something about it. And there's been a quote that the darkness has said to her. It was like the first thing she heard from him once they started kind of sharing a body, sharing a soul, whatever it is. he said something like, "Darlene, you've always had a choice." Like that's always been his motto for her, his mantra to her. And it's said multiple times in both books. Okay, so like we hear this thing about like consent, choices, things like that. It's her choice, blah, blah, blah. And then in the second book, he does the same thing. Like he goes into her mind, even though like she like didn't let him go. It was weird. I was like, why are we still doing this? So I kept thinking there's gonna be something, because the author was just like really ramping this up, that he kept like doing this against her will, and it bothered me so much in the first book, and I was expecting more to come out of that in the second book, and I'll say that it doesn't. So it kind of goes nowhere, and I still hate the male main character because of that. But thankfully in the second book, like I said, we are more centered on the relationship of Ione, who is Elspeth's cousin, and Elm, who is like one of the princes. There's like so many princes. So yeah, I did like this one more than the first. I want to give it 4 stars, definitely. If I did half stars, I hate saying this because I should just do half stars and want to talk about them, but I'm not. I like to keep my books within the 5-star range, no half stars. I need to make a decision whether it's more of a 4-star or a 3-star book. And I think that because I made the decision that the first one was a 3-star book and I like this one more, I will have to make the decision that this one's a 4-star book. I have this much time left. You know, honestly, I was gonna save this for tomorrow, because tomorrow's gonna be kind of hectic, and I might even have to like bleed this 24-hour readathon into the next day because I'm gonna be out of the house for a lot of tomorrow. Oh, this is long. This is another long book. It's longer than the Jasad Heir. So I have Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Robert. It's like a polyamory smutty romance, and I thought that that'd be fun, but 500 pages? I don't know if I can take 500 pages of Katie Robert. At that point, I would just rather read a fantasy like the Jasad Heir. And I think the Jasad Heir, it's an adult fantasy as well, so that like piques my interest a little bit. I won't lie, this book is like really calling out to me. It's been on my mind for a long time. I think I'm gonna start reading this. I think that if I decide to lay down, I'll switch to the Kindle and I'll start the Jasad Heir. Probably my most toxic trait of all time is that I constantly start multiple books at once, and then I just flip-flop between them. I'm thankfully like able to handle that in my brain, but that just means that like I'll be reading 5 books at once, and instead of like actually finishing a book in a timely manner, it'll take me like a month to read all 5 books. So it's like really annoying trait of mine, but I think that it will work out in this because I feel like reading this, but I might not want to read a physical book for the rest of the night, so then I will go to the Jasad Heir. So I'll just meet you in the next clip, let you know what I do, how far I get, and what time I'm at. I meant to do this in the last clip. I just wanted to read the back here so you can get like a little gist of what this book's about, because it like so you can understand why it's been on my mind. So it says, something evil is buried deep in the desert. It wants your body. It wears your skin. In the summer of 1995, 7 queer kids abandoned by their parents at a remote conversion camp come face to face with it. They survived, but at Camp Resolution, everybody leaves a different person. 16 years later, only the scarred and broken survivors of that terrible summer can put an end to the horror before it's too late. The fate of the world depends on it. And I'm literally 10 pages in, and I don't know if like the characters that we're reading about are like the main characters or not. I think it's just the story of one person who went to the conversion camp. Like she comes home and she's like not like herself. Like the mother kind of knows that something's off, and so I think it's like a cuckoo bird, you know, like obviously you probably could have guessed that from the cover alone. I think that that's like really scary and like a really effective kind of horror, so I'm excited to see how that goes. And also, weirdly enough, the last like 3 or 4 books I've read have mentioned a cuckoo bird in somewhere or another, talking about someone taking the place of someone else in some way. And so it's just been on my mind because of all the books that I've read lately that I've mentioned cuckoo birds. So yeah, I literally 10 pages in, I'm already like, this is a perfect pick. I'm glad I picked this one up. Okay, my hair's wet, it's drying. All right, I'm about to go see Interstellar in IMAX, super hype, but let me give you all a little update. So today's the day where I'm supposed to read for another 12 hours. However, I have 2 hours and 27 minutes left from yesterday. It's fine. I had a lot to do, a lot more than I thought I had to do yesterday. So yeah, today I've been reading basically since I woke up. I made some food and I didn't read while doing that because I can't like read and cook at the same time. And I woke up really early this morning, couldn't fall back asleep. So I read for 20 minutes while I couldn't sleep. So I'm gonna actually subtract that 20 minutes from this time now, just so I don't forget when I get back from the movies. 7 minutes. Okay, so that plus 12 hours is what I have left for the 24-hour readathon. I've already finished 2 books in this time. I have started 2 more books. in that time. So yeah, I got to chapter 5, page 72 in Cuckoo. It's okay, so the first part of the book was really good. It was like a story of a child who came back from the conversion camp and how the mother just like knew that something was wrong. She's like, that's not my daughter, like that's not my girl. And we can see like she was just like not acting the way that she had once acted. I liked that horror aspect of it where the mother just like knew something was wrong and didn't know how to like tell the dad and everything. This is also like set in the 90s where the men are like very misogynistic. There's like a lot. It's also like based around a conversion camp. Is that what it's called? Yeah, conversion camp. So like it's obviously very anti-gay rhetoric that's being spewed throughout the pages. There is some racism also within this book, which I know that some horror books tend to stick to things that make you feel uncomfortable and squeamish, and that can sometimes be racism and homophobia. And so if that is not for you, like if you just like straight up can't read stuff like that, like you don't want to read name calling and like talking about other people's skin color and stuff like that, like this book might not be for you. If that's like too triggering for you, I totally get it. I would not suggest you pick it up because it's just like, it's a bunch of teenagers talking shit about each other, and they bring up race and the other people's race and everything. And then plus the camp counselors are very anti-gay, obviously. So they just have like comments that are gross towards the gay kids in this book. Another thing that is also kind of a little weird, I will say, is that it is children. Like it's ages like 13 to 17 in this book. Some of these kids are like sexually active, so there is like writing about like the girl that she hooked up with or the guy that he was with and all this stuff. And the way that the writer is writing it, she's writing it very adult, even though like these are children. So it's like sexual situations, like they're kind of like they're at the camp like working or whatever, and then they reflect back on like how it felt to be with that girl before she got caught and had to be put in the camp and everything. So if that makes you uncomfortable, like children having sex and like descriptions of children having sex and the things that they're doing while having sex, like I get it. Like don't read this book. Like seriously, this is definitely a horror book, I can tell, that relies on like what is the word I'm looking for? It just relies on making you really squeamish, okay? And it's doing it really well, I will say, because the horror aspect of it too, like the camp counselors, there's obviously something really weird and wrong with them, and the kids, like when they come back, something's really weird and wrong with them based on like what we saw in the little prologue first chapter thing. I am enjoying it because it's freaking me out, but I totally understand if that's not for you. Like this is your warning, don't pick up this book, okay? And then this morning while I couldn't sleep, I started the Jasad Air, and then I walked on the treadmill for an hour and I read more of it. I'm 69 pages in, that's 15% of the way through the book. I love it so much, you guys. It's such a good fantasy read. Okay, so basically they're in this magical world where there are like different like cities kind of, and different like kinds of people, and in the beginning there were like 4 different kinds of magic, and 3 of them had like fought, like they kept fighting, and the more they fight the less magic, like they kind of fight for each other's magic, and so it kind of like dilutes the magic over time. But the Jasads, they did not fight, or they just like were really strong anyway, and so at the end of the day they end up being like the most strong kind of community of people. And then there's this other, I don't know the names, I'm so sorry, but then there's this other group of people who were kind of brought together to create peace amongst all of the fighting magical regions. And when they saw that the Jasads were like way powerful than everyone else, that's obviously not fair, so they have to eradicate them. So they literally like burn the city to the ground. And then our main character, she is the Jasad heir, so she's like the princess, right? Well, she literally saw like her whole family get burned to death, and she ran and totally like took on this new identity. And that's like where we're at now. They have talked a little bit about the competition, which I don't know how to describe it yet, but it's just some competition that's gonna happen. And she has met the heir of the kingdom. Like I don't know what that's called yet either. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm literally 60 pages through the book. Okay, I'll learn it at some point. I'm also really bad at describing magical systems and like names of magical things within fantasy books. Like, okay, bear with me. Sorry, cancel me if you want. I'm really liking it. I'm liking it a lot more than Cuckoo, and it makes me want to keep reading it. I mean, I definitely plan on finishing both these books within the next 14 hours. So I will, and I will catch you back with another update. Hey y'all, welcome to day 2 of the 24-hour readathon. As I said before, yesterday I did 12 hours. Today I'm doing 12 hours to equal out 24 hours in total for the readathon. I woke up early this morning, couldn't fall asleep, so I read for 35 minutes and then I just like subtracted 35 minutes from 12 hours. I'm still reading The Heir of Jasad and I'm loving it so much. I don't even want to pick up Cuckoo. Like, I kind of want to put that on the back burner right now because I'm just loving this one so much, and I definitely want to just read it all day, and I'll just finish it, and then whatever time I have left, we'll get to Cuckoo, I guess. The other shoe has dropped, basically, with this one, where she was caught using magic, and she was caught by the heir of, I don't know how to say this, Nizal, and he's like, he's the son of the king, the man who eradicated her people, the Jasad people, right? Like, he was the big baddie who like burned everything down to the ground, killed her family and everything, and it's his son. He caught her doing magic, and he had been like kind of following her all day because he like knew something, and then he like eventually catches her, and then he makes her be like his champion for these games that they're gonna play, this competition. I can't remember what the name of it is, but she's just like training now, and we're getting like a lot of, I don't know, I feel like the author is like foreshadowing a lot that maybe his name is Aaron, maybe Aaron is Jasadi in some way. I don't know. I feel like I'm like, how can that be true when he's the son of Rowan, who was the king that killed her people? Like, maybe he's like a bastard son or something. I don't know. I don't get it. I have no idea. But I feel like the author is like really like foreshadowing that a lot, and maybe I'm just picking up on it. And the author's like, girl, I don't know what to tell you. That's not the case. He's literally like the son of the enemy. It's just really good. She's just training right now. We haven't even started the games, the competition, tournament, whatever it is. But I love it. The writing is really good. It's fantasy, but not like really, like I'm just really enjoying their relationship because they just like keep getting into it with each other. Like they literally both hate each other, or at least she hates him and then he has to defend himself, obviously. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm gonna keep reading. I was just looking at the table of contents because I'm on chapter 16. I wanted to see how many chapters there were, and I just saw that we get a chapter of Aaron's perspective. Like, what could that mean? I'm gonna be very normal about this. It's fine. Hey, okay, so transparency time. It's the next day. Okay, I did not finish those 12 hours yesterday. I slept in my makeup, I've been sick, I don't feel good, but I finished the Jasad Heir, and I have just under 6 hours to go to finish Cuckoo, okay? The first 3/4 of the Jasad Heir were so good. Like, I was eating it up, and then I don't know if it's the sickness that got to me, but the final quarter of the book, I could not wait for it to be over. I was like, let's get on with it. I am so tired of the prose. I'm so tired of all of these new people getting introduced to us. There were so many characters to keep track of. It was just like, it was a lot. Maybe it was just because I've been trying to read it in like, you know, this 24-hour, 12-hour period and everything. I think to myself, maybe if I had given myself more time and more grace to finish it, I would have enjoyed it a lot more, but I know I would have forgotten stuff because there's so much different language within the book. There's so many different characters that have different names. It was just like a lot to take in all at once, but I'm sure that if I had broken it up and like taken my time reading it throughout like a week or two, I would have lost the plot multiple times. So like, it is the kind of book that you have to read in almost a kind of 1 to 2 settings. But that last quarter, I was ready for it to be over. I love the ending. Okay, I will say that. The ending was great, and it makes me want to read the next books. I really hope that the next books are really good. I hope it's not just more of this like complacency that I kept seeing throughout the book, because the thing is our main girl, she is Jasadi. The Jasadi people were eradicated. They were burned to the ground because their magic was so excessive. The other kingdoms, A, couldn't keep up with it, and B, couldn't like find a way to, what's the word, like control them, keep them in check. Like the Jasadi people, she finds out that they weren't as innocent as she was led to believe. Like even she, as the Jasadi heir, the princess, basically, when she was a kid, she was pretty evil as well. Like she would hurt people, you know? So she's like realizing that her people weren't all this great, but then all throughout the book, she still has never like betrayed her people. Like she's never been like, wow, my family, my people were awful. Like I'm gonna join these other people, this other ranks of people and everything. Like she still had lots of love and care for her people. And we see her people be hurt throughout the book, and the way that she feels about that, like she feels very deeply for them. So there's never a question of like, oh, she's gonna like betray her people, right? And basically, like, if any of her kind are ever found, they have a trial, but they're like killed. Like, they're found guilty every single time because like they're just like basically not allowed to live anymore. The trials, I didn't like the trials at all. I honestly was very like irritated while reading it. I don't know if it was just like the effects of the challenge, if it was because, like I said, the challenges pretty much happen, like all 3 of them happen in the last quarter of the book. It's like the beginning of the book is like the build up and her story, and then for like 2/4 of the book she is training, like she's training and having time with Aaron, and we're like building that relationship. And then the final quarter of the book is the trials and the competition and everything to find the champion. I'm really glad it's over. I liked the ending a lot. It was the kind of ending that I wanted. I feel like if it had ended any other way, if it had been a nicer ending, I would have disliked it. I will say this book is a slow burn, like the slowest slow burn you could ever burn a slow, I swear to God. So if you're looking for a different kind of like cultural high fantasy book that has the slowest burn known to mankind, The Jasad Era is for you. I hope you enjoy it. I was thinking the whole time like, oh, this is 5 stars, this is 5 stars. I love the sentences, I love the way this author writes, I love the characters, I love the build up, I love where we're going, I love a competition in a book, I love the slow burn. But then like that last quarter just like melted my brain, and I think I'm gonna have to give it 4 stars because I did not enjoy the last quarter. I'm gonna finish this within this time. I feel like I'm even gonna have time left over because this is a short book. It's like not even 300 pages. No, okay, it is 300. It's 335 pages or whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna finish this book. I'm actually gonna take a break. I'm gonna be so for real. I'm gonna take a break and clean up around the house because I've been so sick. I have not gone to anything. I have a trip to take this weekend, and I'm just like, oh my God, I need to get this video out. So I'm just gonna take a break and decompress for a minute, get my life together, and then I'm gonna pick up Cuckoo and get back to reading. All right, I finished Cuckoo. Oh, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start talking about how much I hated this book. It is broken into 3 parts. The first part is a mother's experience of one of these kids coming back from this conversion camp and how her daughter is not the same. Okay, like she's very clearly understanding that like something happened to her daughter at this conversion camp. She came back, she's very different, and kind of how like the demise of the family happens once one of these kids come back. Okay, I like that part. I thought that that was very scary, very effective. We get a good sense of the author's writing as well, and how tangible she writes. Like you can really feel, smell, taste everything that's going on in this book, which is unfortunate for the rest of the book because the second part of the book, we have a group of kids who are at the conversion camp. It's like 4 years after part 1. It's like in the mid-90s, and I could not handle, like I really couldn't handle, how do I even want to say this? The depictions of sex, violence, racism, homophobia, fat phobia even, like amongst these children. Like what do you think you're doing? Like honestly, this reminds me of that one book. It reminded me a lot of that book, The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins, where it's about children and a lot of violence that befalls these children. These children, they're being basically like taught by a god. They're being taught by a god, I don't know how to say that, but to be taught by this man, they have to undergo a lot of violence. And it's like so easy to pull yourself out of the fact that children are going through this, but for me, it was not. Like maybe for some readers it is, for me it was not. This book was no different, okay? Because it wasn't just like, oh, the violence is really bad, the violence is really visceral, these children are getting beat, these children, like there's so much happening to them. It was the constant depiction of sex between them. Every chapter, every single chapter there was a sex scene. Every single chapter there was a callback to one of the kids. Oh, when my dad caught me with Jonathan. And then it wasn't just like, oh, he caught me with Jonathan, he was mad at me, he sent me to this camp. It was like very explicit imagery of what him and Jonathan were doing, okay? And it's not said in a way that's at all even just like cutesy. Like I don't even know if that would have made it better, probably not, but just like this very like dirty sense of what sex can be, that's what these children were engaging in. And so to like put yourself in this book and understand that this is like 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds dealing with this and going through this. And then not to mention the violence. There is a very, very upsetting scene where two kids get in really big trouble and the preacher at the camp has to like belt whip them. I could not, because it's not just like the thought and like the description of like what's happening to them. It goes for several chapters, people recalling how these kids were reacting in these moments. Okay, it's not just like, oh, I hope he doesn't do it to me. It's like them constantly recounting that situation and the ways that these children were acting and the facial expressions they had. I mean, just like, I don't want to harp on it too much because it's just like really upsetting and I don't want to give this book more than it needs to. I can't wait to unhaul it. I can't wait to give it to a library so it doesn't have to be in my library anymore. Towards the final third of it, I would say, I started skimming. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry actually, because I couldn't wait for it to be over. I could not wait to get out of this author's head. I understand that it was very effective in the horror genre because like it had a reaction from me. Clearly it was freaky and spooky and upsetting, and like I don't really enjoy that in my horror. I don't enjoy being upset when I'm reading a horror book. There's only been like one other horror book that I read that was like the most 0 stars of all 0 stars that I could give a 0-star book because it was just like horrific, the things that I was reading. This like is one step above that because at least this was a little bit readable and had like actual characters in it. I'm giving it 1 star. I can't wait to give it 1 star. I'm really, actually, you know what, let's look at the Goodreads reviews right now because I wonder what star rating it actually has, because I bought it on a whim. I was at Barnes & Noble and I was like, this cover looks really cool and it's about like a horror book about a conversion camp. I didn't think it would be as serious as it ended up being. I don't know what I was expecting. I just thought like I honestly didn't expect this like very explicit nature around these children to be happening, I think is my thing. As a 3.57 average, okay, like that's better than I thought it would be, in the sense of like it's a lower rating than I thought it would be. Yeah, okay, this girl, one of the top reviewers on here, has 56 likes, talks about how she DNF'd it at 72%. It starts off with a prologue that was honestly an excellent short story that could have stood on its own. Totally agree with that. Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy the rest of the book as much. And then she goes on. It would have been one thing if the kids were just having like off-screen sex or just like having sex as teenagers typically normally do. Like I would have had no problem with that. But this like constant visceral, it's like she wanted a reaction from us. She wanted us to remember that they were children and dealing with like this very explicit language. I don't know, maybe I'm a prude, I don't care. I did not appreciate it. She wrote this other book called Manhunt, which I want to read because the cover looks cool again. Like maybe she just has covers that fuck really hard. It's in my to like want to be read, but can't say I'll be picking it up anytime soon, honestly. And I'm not harping on this enough. There was so much racism in this book, okay? Like I want to know where she got off writing some of the things that she wrote in here, or having some of the characters like be this racist. Like, do we need to tone it up that much? I finished it with like 2 hours to go. I've kept the timer running while I've been ranting because I need to finish this freaking challenge, you guys, and I need something good to read because the last book has been abysmal. So I might just do what I do at the end of every readathon when I have like an hour or 2 to go and I can't finish a book in that time. I am going to catch up on the My Hero manga. For those who have been here for a hot minute, you already know this story. I read it up until like I caught up with the physical copies, and then I started trying to read it online, and then I lost the plot. I stopped reading it online. The physical books kept coming out, but then I decided to go back and reread all of it, and now the online manga has finished and I need to catch up. Like I just need to finish it, okay? I didn't even watch the last season because I had not read the story, the serialized story yet. So I'm on volume 25. I have volume 26 here. I don't think it's gonna take me 2 hours to read these. Maybe I'll read 3 of them. Maybe I'll read something else for like the final 30 minutes. I don't know. I don't know how long I can handle it. I just know that Cuckoo sucked major ass. Of course, the first chapter is the demise of Shigaraki's family. Like, of course. I just start here. They love chopping off limbs in this story. I don't... That is like the craziest thing. Craziest concept, to like chop off your limb to avoid the rest of your body. Stop it right now. This story does it so many times too. I can't. Look at all of them. I love these characters so much, you guys. Every time I read one of these, I'm like, why am I not reading all of them right now? Freaking Aerie. This is the little girl who never learned how to smile, okay? Like, her whole childhood has been a burden, has been told that she's a burden. Like, it's sad. Like, that was a whole storyline. And it's Christmas, and she's going to celebrate the holidays. And she shows up to their, like, Christmas party. She's like, tricky treat, not quite, wrong holiday. It's Aerie Claus. And then in the next page, she's talking to Ararika. She's like, the eggs are painted all pretty. No, that's for Easter. I can't. This is giving me so much joy right now. Every time I read these books, I just love the characters. I love the story so much. It's like so pure-hearted, but also just like you get to watch them grow so much. And I know there's still so much more to come. Like I said, I've read maybe half of the story, like maybe a little bit more than half the story all the way before. I'm just rereading it now. So I just finished volume 25. I'm gonna head right into volume 26. I have just an hour left. It took me like 45 minutes to read this volume, so it's gonna take me like 45 minutes to read this volume, and then we'll do a wrap up at the end and we will close out this video. We'll close out this 24-hour readathon. Thank you so much for sticking around. I'll see you in the next clip ending this video. Okay, I finished volume 26. We have over 7 minutes to go. So let's talk about everything that I read, do a little wrap up, and we'll close this video out. First, I read House of Hollow. I only had like an hour and a half left in it by the time I started it. 5 stars, like 5 stars across the board. I loved it so much. I kind of wish I had filmed my whole reaction to it like as I was reading it, but it was just so much better to just like immerse myself and not stop for anything, because that book was so good. The writing was delicious. I mean, gorgeous. It was about 3 sisters. One of them goes missing. They're all very close-knit, and the other 2 sisters have to go find out where she is. We get a lot of backstory about their initial disappearance when they, like 10 years ago. The whole thing just coming together was so good. I love the ending. The writing was very visceral. Like, I could smell everything that was being described to me. It was really well written. I loved it. I love the characters as well. Like, all 3 of the sisters I really love. Even the bad guys, in the story were so well written. I couldn't help but love them. I could see the motivation and I understood it as well. And that's just like, that's the best thing, when you can like really not necessarily empathize with the villain, but like just understand the villain in a really real way. I thought that the author did amazing. I will happily read anything else that she writes. After that, I read Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second book in the Shepherd King duology. This was better than the first book, which is so surprising. And what was really cool about this is that it's actually a duology. So I think it's a really well done duology. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. It was a really well done duology, and I love the characters because in the first book there's a character in there that drove me insane, and he's the main character, so I think he had a whole POV. He has a POV in this book as well, because his whole side of the story, it really feeds off of the first book and continues the story going on from there. But in the second book, we have 2 other love interests, and their story blossoms in the second book that I read. So Two Twisted Crowns I thoroughly enjoyed because we didn't get so much of the characters that I didn't care for in the first book. We got like a slew of new characters, I guess you could say. That was 4 stars. I believe I gave that 4 stars. After that, I read The Jasot Heir, and The Jasot Heir was really good. I believe I said this in my initial review here of it. If we broke it into 4 parts, the first part is world building, character building, trying to figure out everything within this fantastical world, how the kingdoms come apart and come together and come back apart. And then the next 2/4 of the book is just her training, like her just getting stronger and training, which, don't get me wrong, I love a training sequence. I love a I'm getting stronger than I ever have been kind of sequence, but it just started to get a little dull. Like the more I was reading it, I was expecting maybe something different out of it. I feel like with most of these romantic kind of romantasy books that I read, even if it's a slow burn romance, we still get progress within the two main characters, the two love interests, by at least the third fourth of the book, okay? And with this one, it waited all the way till the fourth of the book, like the very last chapter, if you will. And even then, it wasn't everything that you wanted, okay? So like slow burn girlies rise up, you will love this one. And the whole romantic side of it, pushed to the side, I still felt like progression of the story, the progression of our main character learning about her heritage and how she still defends it even when she is learning how evil it kind of ended up being in the end. That just lasted a long time. Like I really felt like we were kind of going in circles. Like I felt like, why are we still learning about this? I got it. Like I understand why we're getting to where we're going, and I know how the book is going to end up in a way, because I definitely was not surprised with the ending. The ending was still very, very good. The last fourth of the book was the actual trials, the competition, the championship, and everything that she had been training for the whole book. At that point, I was checked out. Like the trials, like they just went over my head. I just like wish I cared more. I will say that the writing was very beautiful, like really like 5 out of 5 stars writing, really good prose, smart. I felt like really good reading it, really uplifted reading it, really sad reading it when I needed to. I'm definitely really excited to read the next book because the way it ended was so insane. It was so good. Like even though I could see it coming, I could see this being a possibility of how it was gonna end, I still didn't like, I always underestimate authors. I always think they don't have the guts to do something really crazy and tragic, and when they do, I'm very excited and very happy. Next was Cuckoo, which 1 star is the worst book of the whole series. I cannot wait to get this off my shelves. I don't even think I'm gonna reshelf it. I'm just gonna put it in a pile over there because it doesn't deserve to be amongst all these other books I have up here. Not that I've read all of these. I don't know if all of these are great, but I read this one and I know it's not great. I loved what that one Goodreads review said that I read here, where the first part of the story would have been like the most effective short story. It was so good. I was hooked. I was so hooked with the first part of the story. The first like, maybe it's like 50 pages or something. Oh no, it's just the first 22 pages. Literally within the first 22 pages, I was so hooked and really loving where it was going. It was really effective. And then we get more into the book and it's just, I understand that some horror really depends on being shocking and grotesque in the way that it can be shocking, and that's like the horror, like that's the visceral reaction that it's wanting to get from you. I think that's just not my thing, because I've read really good horror that is like heart-wrenching, not just sad but scary, and scary in ways that creatures can be described and situations can be described. I think ultimately my problem with this book was that it was centered around children. Like there were 13 to 17-year-old children going through the things in here, and oh, we're about to finish it. 2, 1. Descriptive, explicit descriptions of the sexual acts that these children were doing or got caught doing or wanted to do to each other. I was just like not there for it. Like I don't want to read about children doing those things, okay? Like that's why I read adult books about those things, because they're actually enjoyable to read about adults doing these things instead of thinking about children doing them or adults doing them with children. I just like, I don't want to read that. That's not for me. And then to finish it off, we had an hour and 45 minutes left, and I read 2 My Hero manga volumes. I love this story so much. It just like brings me so much joy every single time I read one of these novels. It makes me want to just keep reading them every single time, and I have to stop myself because I have so much else to do. And I will be taking time out of my year next year to finish the whole volume, so look out for that video whenever it comes out. It will be out next year, I promise, because your girl needs to catch up, your girl needs to be caught up, and I need to finish the most recent season as well. Such a good story. If you want to start anywhere with anime, this is it. Okay, this is where I started. I'm not a huge anime girly. Okay, I've only seen a couple in my lifetime, but this one will always be bae. This one will always be the OG. This will always be the one I come back to. My Hero Academia is my fave. And that's all I have to say in this. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for watching this 24-hour readathon. I hope it was entertaining enough for you, and I hope that you enjoy your Friday the 13th. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much. I appreciate your view and your support so much. Feel free to follow me on all my social media down below. I have an Instagram, a Goodreads, Letterboxd, whatever. Anyway, I hope you have a fabulous Friday the 13th, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!